What is the secret to a great marriage? What does it take to not only stay together, but to grow deeper and deeper in love and have more and more joy and satisfaction and fun and deep friendship in your marriage? That's the question I think every married person should be asking. And that's why in my 52 book challenge this year, one of the categories of books is relationships, and not all of them are the marriage relationship, as you'll see as I dive deeper into books. But my second relationship book this year is another marriage one. It is the GoGiver Marriage by John David Mann and his wife Anna Gabriel Mann. This might sound familiar to many of you if you've followed my stuff, because the GoGiver, the original one in this series, co-authored by John David Mann and Bob Berg, is my number one recommended book of all time outside of the Bible. And for good reason. It's one of the most powerful, readable, beautiful books that you could ever get your hands on. And so I've read almost every Go-Giver book in the series. Yes, there is a series of books. And when I saw that John David Mann wrote a Go-Giver book on marriage, well, I knew I had to read it. This is actually a reread for me. I read it 2 years ago. I remember finishing on the plane, coming back from a spring break trip right before my first book launched. So I was in book launch mode. It was the first exciting time to be a published author. And the last book I read before my book came out was this book. And so I wanted to put it on the list again this year to reread it. And for candid reason, actually, because this has been one of those years that Shay and I have really tried to work on our marriage, because we've seen wow, we're 18 years into marriage, and we had no idea just how much there was to work on. I would say that it's been the hardest year of marriage in 18 years. I know I haven't even gotten into the book yet, but you need to know there's a reason why I read these books. It's not just to put out an episode or a video like this giving a synopsis. It's not for SEO purposes. This is because I'm actually reading, and this year I'm just documenting what I'm reading. I really want to improve my marriage. And I absolutely love this book. I love the story because it is written as a fable, so it's a beautiful little story you're going to read. And if you really care to know, it's very interesting. There's actually a story within the story. So there's a character in the story who's telling another character a story. So it's a fable inside of a fable, which is a lot like Christopher Nolan's Inception, where there's a dream inside of a dream. So it's a little mind-blowing, but it's a beautiful story. And there's 5 secrets to lasting love. I won't share any of the secrets on this thing. You just really need to pick it up and read it. But what I want to do is share a couple of quotes that are just mind-blowing and just share you my overarching thought here. Early on in the book, one of the characters says, to say love is what makes a marriage work is like saying it takes oxygen to climb a mountain. Yes, oxygen is necessary, but not sufficient. It takes more than love. And as you're going to see, you need to learn these 5 secrets and then put them into practice. A good marriage takes action. It takes practice. A couple of lines here that are haunting, because this is what every marriage could have sneak up on it. You think of marriages falling apart because you think of fights, you think of mistrust, you think of an affair. One of the characters has a friend who had an amicable divorce. She says, no big fights, nobody cheated, they didn't know what happened. Their marriage just sort of seemed to slip away. Very, very haunting. Later on, another character in the story says, with her marriage, it was falling apart. No bitter arguments or anything like that, she says. I could even say we were happy, more or less, but not truly, fully happy. There was something we'd had when we first got married that was getting lost along the way. It was like a nagging cough that doesn't seem that bad, but you sense it could turn into something worse. And I wanted to read those 2 lines because I really think this is what gets most marriages and most relationships, is just you don't know what happened, but you either drift apart or you become something that you weren't originally, and you don't know how to relate to the other person because they've become someone different. You become different. Life kind of gets in the way. You're just trying to do the best you can. If you have kids, if you have a career, if you have a sick parent. I mean, life happens. You're managing life, and you become more business partners, roommates, and less lovers and friends. And so that can happen slowly and silently. And so I just wanted to put that out there in case that's something that perks you up, as this is important to know. All right. The solution is the 5 secrets. They're beautiful. But I just want to highlight 2 quotes here, and then we'll wrap this up, because I really just can't get into it. You just have to read the book. To really work on a marriage, one character says, you don't work on the marriage, you work on yourself and trust your partner to do the same. Easier said than done, but I think the beauty of what they're saying here, really 4 of the 5 secrets do affect you working on serving them. The 5th one is about yourself, but the theme here being, for the marriage to become whole, for the marriage to become better, you have to become better, and your spouse has to become better. This is why I read books. I want to become better. Now, to read them is one thing. To put them into practice is another. I totally understand that. I've gotten a little bit of flack for this whole 52 book challenge. Like, oh, you're going to read a bunch of books. Why don't you just read one book and actually apply it 52 times? I get it. That's not the point of this challenge. This challenge is just, for me, you don't have to do it. You don't have to criticize it. It's okay. But yes, reading books is one thing, but knowledge applied is wisdom, right? So we actually have to apply the knowledge. But here's the line that I want to land on, because this is the line that just got me. I think it's the most beautiful line in the whole book. And the line is, one of the characters asks the main character, what is the purpose of marriage? Do you know what the purpose of marriage is? And everyone might have a different answer. Here's the author's answer. The purpose of marriage is to give yourself fully to another, and in the process, become your best self. How beautiful is that? The purpose of marriage is to give yourself fully to another. Part 1, like, you can't have a marriage if you withhold love, if you withhold trust, if you withhold generosity. And there might be a reason why you withhold that. Maybe there is no trust anymore. Maybe you have been hurt by the other person, and it might seem like a genuine reason. And sometimes, I don't know, you actually do need some help. You need a counselor. But sometimes we've just gotten cold and hard and bitter. And to have a true marriage, it's not 2 people. It's 2 becoming one and becoming a third entity. You don't lose your individual personhood, but you create a third beautiful thing, which is the 2 of you together, that could never exist if you don't give yourself fully. If you give yourself partially, you're never going to have that full, thriving marriage that you want. And it is risky to give yourself to another. This is why marriage is such a holy and precious thing. It's not just dating. It's not just a friendship, although friendship is. This is a covenant in the language of the Bible. God invented marriage. It's a covenant in the language of the Bible. It is I'm committed to you no matter what, which is something that our culture doesn't know a whole lot about. Contracts, employers can terminate somebody. Like, we won't even get into that, but like, it is this giving yourself fully to another, which is inherently risky. But the beautiful thing is, when you do that, you become your best version of yourself. I actually do believe that you were meant to marry the person you married for a reason, and that is to love that person and give yourself to that person, but in the process, you become who you were truly meant to be. You can't actually become your truest self on your own. As individualistic as we like to think we are in America, at least where I live, that's really not the way it was meant to be. So, The GoGiver Marriage, a little story about the 5 secrets to lasting love, is a beautiful, beautiful read. You'll read it in an hour. And there's the fable, which is the story itself, and then they beautifully write the practice, and it becomes a bit of a personal development nonfiction section at the end, so you can actually understand the psychology and the relational dynamics that are underpinning these 5 secrets. It's really beautiful. John David Mann and his wife, Gabriel Mann, it's really cool they came together to write this book. Highly, highly recommend it for every single couple out there, or even if you're thinking about marriage. Very doable, very hope-filled, very honest. There you go. Let me know if you've read it. And if you haven't read any of the other GoGiver books, pick them up too. They're all fantastic. All right, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on another book review next week.